Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky is a Russian composer known as the first composer whose music was well accepted internationally. Still, despite his success, he was a man plagued with a lot of emotional stress and struggle. Born on the 7th of May 1740 in a small town in Votkinsk Vyatka Governorate, now known as Udmurtia to be precise, Pyotr came from a military home. His father, Ilya Petrovich Tchaikovsky, was a lieutenant colonel and an engineer in the mines department. His grandfather, Pyotr Frederick Tchaikovsky, served as an assistant to the head physician in the army. Even his great-grandfather was part of the army and fought during the Great Battle of Poltava. Pyotr's parents were trained in art and music. Music and art training was typically compulsory for Russians who wanted to be posted to remote areas of the state. They also learned the art of music to serve to entertain themselves during social and private gatherings. Pyotr lived with his parents and 6 siblings. He was fond of them, but he grew closest to his sister, Alexandra, and his twin brothers. He found that he was more comfortable with them and enjoyed spending time with them. His bond with them grew as years passed by. When he was 4 years old, his parents hired a French governess. This governess was very helpful to the growth and development of young Pyotr. By age 6, he was able to speak French and German fluently. His governess was more than a teacher to him. She provided the comfort, love, and emotional support his mother had deprived him of. His lack of motherly affection affected him greatly and is said to have influenced his approach to music and composition. However, before he was 6 years old, he began playing piano and within 3 years had become so good that he could read sheet music. His parents were pleased with how well his training was going and got him an orchestrion. Despite how good he was becoming, his parents changed their minds about the piano lesson and preferred that he prepare for a career as a civil servant. Pyotr's parents sent him to the Imperial School of Jurisprudence in St. Petersburg. His parents had both graduated from the same school and believed he would be getting the best education to ensure that he had a successful career as a civil servant. Working as a civil servant would give him a more noble position in society than working as a teacher in a music school or an instrumentalist in an imperial theatre, which was part of the least valuable and lower-ranking jobs in Russia at the time. He was not excited about this move, but there was nothing he could do. His father was not certain about how long he would be able to provide for him and wanted him to be self-sufficient as soon as possible. He had to be 12 to gain admission to the school, but since he was just 10 years old, he stayed at the Imperial School of Jurisprudence's preparatory school for 2 years. He began his 17-year studies at the Imperial School of Jurisprudence once he clocked 12 years old. Pyotr suffered emotional trauma due to the distant relationship and lack of affection he received from his mother. His emotional state took a terrible turn when his mother died from cholera. His mother's death led him to compose a waltz concerning her memory. This happens to be his very first serious composition. After his mother's burial, he remained very sad, which forced his father to send him back to school with the hope that he would be occupied with his studies and take his mind off his mother's loss. His studies didn't do much to help him though, but his friendship with Vladimir Gerard and Alexei Apukhin helped him out of his depressed state. His love for music began to reveal itself after the death of his mother, but before we delve deeper into the life of Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, how about you click on the subscribe button to keep you updated on more videos just like this? Music wasn't part of the school curriculum. Still, Pyotr and his friends found a way to incorporate it into their day-to-day activities. They attended opera regularly and would make adjustments for the themes of the school harmonium, mostly got from school choir practices he had with his friends. Pyotr and his friends mostly found it amusing. They didn't think it would be part of the journey towards a successful music career for Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. He and his friends created a group called The Five, an amateur music group interested in the progress of Russia's national music, with no influence from Western culture and methods. Instead, they were more interested in using folk music and Russian influence. Soon afterward, Pyotr noticed Franz Becker, a manufacturer of instruments, coming to the school occasionally and approached him for some piano lessons. He took the lessons for some time but didn't gain much through the lessons. He soon abandoned it. However, Pyotr's father noticed his son's love for music had not died despite his ongoing studies and approached Rudolf Kundinger, who was a music instructor. Pyotr's father wanted to know what a music career would be like for his son. Rudolf's response was, however, negative, despite Pyotr's obvious talent. However, his judgment was based on how poorly musicians in Russia were treated, and he didn't want Pyotr to go through the same experience since his father could provide him with a better future. His father then insisted he finished his studies and worked towards getting a position at the Ministry of Justice. At 19, Pyotr graduated from the Imperial School of Jurisprudence as a titular counselor. Soon after, he began working at the Ministry of Justice as a junior assistant. After a few months, he became a senior assistant. In 1862, the St. Petersburg Conservatory was opened. Pyotr began attending the conservatory, where he studied counterpoint, harmony, composition, and instrumentation. The conservatory transformed Pyotr's life. It made him a musical professional and armed him with the necessary skills to become one of the best composers globally. He was able to compose a piece that could not be called Russian or European predominantly. His work showed that Russian and European could be a source of inspiration for any composition, which served as a foundation for other composers to build their styles. He graduated in 1865 after successfully submitting his first symphony to the Russia Music School. However, his teachers, Rubinstein and Zaremba, didn't like some of the approaches he took toward his composition and demanded that he make some changes. Pyotr, however, refused to make the changes and took back his symphony. In 1868, his symphony performance took place in Moscow. Pyotr also worked as the professor of music theory at the Moscow Conservatory. He composed and performed internationally acclaimed pieces like the 1812 Overture. He composed ballets like The Nutcracker and Swan Lake, violin and piano concerto, operas such as Eugene Onegin, and several symphonies. However, his first composition was The Voyevoda, inspired by a play by Alexander Ostrovsky, which was released in 1869. He wasn't impressed by the composition and had it destroyed. In 1870, he composed Undina, which he destroyed as well. Pyotr was very supportive of his music career despite the homosexual controversy surrounding his life. Pyotr's same-sex attraction was said to have started way back in school. His first lover was believed to be Sergei Kiriyev, who was also a student at the Imperial School of Jurisprudence. His relationship with Sergei was the most genuine and longest. Although Pyotr's sexuality isn't much of a secret, it has not been officially acknowledged as the Russian government continues to censor and deny his same-sex attraction. In 1868, Pyotr met Desiree Artol, a soprano from Belgium. They began dating and were engaged to get married. Still, the marriage never happened because Desiree wouldn't give up her career and move to Russia. He went on to marry Antonina Milikova, one of his former students. Their marriage ended in less than 2 months because they were not compatible. Pyotr had no children and spent most of his life composing and dealing with depression. Pyotr died at the age of 53. There are speculations that he died a terrible death, probably suicide, after suffering from illness due to heavy drinking and constant smoking, while some believed he died from cholera after drinking unboiled water at a restaurant. Regardless, how he died is still pretty much a mystery. However, what we do know is that he was buried at the Alexander Nevsky Monastery, where legendary composers like Mily Balakirev and Alexander Borodin were buried. Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky was a composer interested in his music going beyond the border of Russia. He has since accomplished that and is immortalized in history as one of the greatest composers who's ever lived. Which would you choose if you had to pick one Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky piece to listen to for the rest of your life? Let us know in the comment section. And if you've not subscribed to this channel, do so by clicking on the subscribe button, and don't forget to like and share this video.